On today's show, it's the most chaotic Ring of Honor yet. The biggest what-ifs in Senators history.
I'm Jake Sanderson.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan. Pilsy will be by in just a moment. Got to tell you, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Download Game Time and use code LOCKEDONNHL. That's $20 off your first purchase. You can follow the show on social media. We're at Sens Central on Twitter and LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. You can find the podcast everywhere you get yours, free and available on YouTube. All right, before we get to this Ring of Honor, no, you'll see for yourself. Welcome back. It's episode 4 of season 2, the Ring of Honor. Pilsy's with me, and we got Marc here as well. Marc, Sens Central citizen just a couple weeks ago. Welcome back to the show, fella.
Yeah, guys, quick turnaround to get back on the show. I'm glad to be back talking with you guys, and I've told you guys this off air, but I'm not entirely prepared, but we're ready to get at it. So let's go.
Is it because of the topic? What was your immediate reaction when you heard it was going to be the biggest what ifs in Sens history?
Well, for me, the biggest challenge is thinking about what's going to play on the graphic, right? Like the positives or the negatives, because there's so many positives you could go down. There's so many negatives you could go down. You could look at situations and look at decisions that were made. You could look at, if that puck didn't cross the line, certain situations like that, there's so many different avenues you could go is what I'm getting at. So yeah, looking forward to it.
I just played him a psychology experiment, Pilsy. This guy's over-prepared. You see, he already has his strategy. He just set the bar so low for himself. I see what he's doing. He doesn't want to come in cocky. He knows that no challengers won against us so far this season. How many wins do you have, Pilsy? I got 2.
All right. Yeah. Martian couldn't get it done. Jack couldn't get it done. Nick Spence, nope. Let's see if Marcus can rise to the challenge.
As you already know, we are doing the Ring of Honor, the biggest what-ifs in Senators history. I got the victory last week. It was actually very lopsided, our most lopsided ever. Pilsy,
Yep.
Would you like
Congrats.
to comment on that?
It was a good job by you. I think Nick and I weren't able to get those heavy hitters at the back half of the draft, and I think that's what you did it. I honestly think your 4th pick was your best. Maybe not better than Heatley, but that's what swayed it for you, I think. It
definitely was a steal for me. And I mean, our guy Nick in LA put out the poll, and it was almost 50-50 of was Ray Emery a great pick or an awful pick. Yeah. It was just like 56-44. Marc, where did you stand on that last week on the most polarizing Senators? Do you think Ray Emery's a good pick or a terrible pick for that?
Honestly, I actually thought it was a pretty good pick, Ross, because there are so many aspects that make him polarizing. And the play on the ice too, right? Like he was good for a couple of years, then kind of faded off and some things happened off the ice. And I don't know, it just never felt like when Ray Emery was in net, I never felt like, okay, I'm 100% confident because he's a good goalie, but you don't know, he could lose his cool at any second. Like he's definitely divisive. So okay, I'll give you that.
Great. Well, I won the draft, so I get to pick the order this time. I'm going to go first and start us off. Then Marc will be the middleman. Pilsy's coming around the horn, picks 3 and 4 snake draft. And my number 1 pick, it was just a clear-cut pick. No stress until I think of the moment. Dominik Hasek going to the Olympics where he gets hurt. The adductor muscle we bring up so often on this show. We lead the sports world for adductor said per 60 episodes.
Easily.
If Dominik Hasek doesn't get hurt at the 2006 Olympics, what if?
Yeah. I was just going to say, too, we've been a infirmary for shoulder injuries the last couple of years, too. Like, it's wild.
Yep. Well, how do we feel about the pick? I'm not getting no reaction out of you. Is this a strategy, Pilsy?
No, this is a good pick. Obviously, Hasek is kind of my brand, so I was hoping that would fall to me. But where this pick is good, Ross, is because there's compounding layers to it. That's the Olympics in 2006. If he doesn't get hurt there and comes back, finishes the regular season for the Sens, then goes on to play in the playoffs for the Sens, they probably do a lot better than a young Ray Emery.
And against his old team, because the Sabres were the second round team that year. Like that storyline would have been incredible.
But then adding on to that, if that season goes well, there's not that sour relationship between Dominic Hasek and the Sens, and he probably re-signs there, and then you got him back for 07
and 08 where he wins the cup with Detroit.
Yeah,
sure. 07 we go on the run. 08 he goes on the run. Like,
what if? So I like that pick, and I think that was all your guys 1-1, 1-2?
1-2. But borderline
by all means, Mark, step up to the microphone and take your 1-1 then.
I think this is just recency bias playing into my 1-1, to be honest with you, but I haven't felt the hurt and I haven't felt the, what could have been, except for the first thing that comes to mind, Chris Kunitz scoring Game 7, OT in Pittsburgh. This is, again, I'm younger, so this is going to hit more my kind of crowd, I think, So, like, coming up in 2006, 2007, I knew of Dominic Hasek. I knew of him going to the Olympics, and I knew that it was going to affect the team. But I don't think I had that same personal connection to it because I was so young at the time. So this one just really resonates with me. I keep thinking back to that moment. What if that puck didn't flutter over Andy's shoulder and we go the other way? Or what if that bounce goes our way and we're up against Nashville? I just think we had the team to do it. Now, would Rene have gotten our way? Maybe, but I think we had enough depth. I think we had quality runs by guys that weren't playing up to their contract, like Bobby Ryan. Andy was on his game. It was just such a good run, and what could have been, right? What if?
Yeah, that certainly was on my list, Mark. That's a good pick. I have it written down in my list. What if Victor Stahlberg's stick is 3 inches longer? Because then he clears that puck out of the zone and we're not worried about it. But
Hilsey, he doesn't clear the puck out. He goes on a breakaway from the far blue line.
Yeah, well, I mean, a Victor Stahlberg breakaway, kind of the same as clearing the puck out. But ultimately, the big thing is the Nashville Predators were one of the weakest Stanley Cup teams in recent history, and the Sens would have rolled right over them. I mean, Mike Fisher was their number one center, and he came out of retirement halfway through that season. Sure, there was injuries that were going on that caused that, but oh man, that cup was ripe for the taking, and Pittsburgh got it.
I mean, we should mention, though, that this doesn't guarantee they even win. You said, well, what about Nashville? What about Sidney Crosby? What about the fact double overtime's still going on? You're on the road, and the Sens were hemmed in their zone for most of both overtimes. That was a Craig Anderson masterclass to even get it there. But I like the pick. It plays. How old were you in 2017?
I would have been 18.
Okay. I was 14 for 2006. So the same kind of.
Sorry, I would have been 19. I would have been 19 at the end of that year in October. At that time, I would have been,
All right. No, that's still, hey, it was a very, very important recent moment in Senators history.
Mm-hmm.
The last time they were in the playoffs, the last moment they were in the playoffs, you pick. Pillsy, what do you have for third overall?
All right. So I've got my 3 and 4 available here, and I'm going to take them.
Hope so.
Yeah. What if the Ottawa Senators decide to keep Zdeno Chara instead of deciding to keep Wade Redden?
That's a great pick.
Great pick.
This was one of the first things. Normally when I get the Ring of Honor discussion topic, I quickly jot down whatever hits my head, and then I start doing research, and then I start ranking it and ordering it. This was one of the ones that hit me immediately because it's so huge. When the Ottawa Senators decided to choose Wade Redden over Zdeno Chara, Redden's career kind of plummeted, and then Chara's took off long-term, their entire career trajectory. Because if the Ottawa Senators get the Zdeno Chara, the quality and quantity of him throughout his Boston years, oh my God, does this team look so different.
It's a fantastic pick, and I'm just so upset because I was on Team Chara that whole time, and it almost plays from mine as well, what your continuation was. Hasek Czech, Chara, Slovak, those guys, if they had success in 2006 together, well, you're probably more likely to look around the room and say, I want to do it with this group again.
Yeah.
And then both those guys stay, because the old reports, if I remember correctly, showed out the Team 1200 back in the day and HF boards trying to find any information you could about the Sens keeping both. And it was almost like they offered them the same deal, 6.5 each. And then because Chara said no and Redden said yes, they gave Redden 7, like $500K more. And that's what Chara was asking for. So it was like, it was close that they could have almost had both. And then they end up choosing Redden, and the rest is history. Fantastic pick. That was number 2 for me.
Thank you.
Yeah, 3 for me. So we're right on track.
Okay, we are. So considering how polarizing this topic is, we do pick what each of us had as our top 4 picks. So I find that interesting. And Pilsy, you're on the clock again. I remember you saying you had your 3 and 4 available. What's Pilsy got in his back pocket? More Ring of Honor next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, that's the formula for winning championships, but also it's what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Today's episode is also brought to you by Mary J's. You know we love Mary J's, a locally owned cannabis dispensary that you can find at Riverside South, Orleans, Greeley, Russell, and Coburg. It all started in Kingston when 3 best friends were sleeping on air mattresses on the floor of the sales room to make ends meet. But now you can find Mary J's everywhere. They offer the best and newest products on the market with many new additions to the menu every week. Mary J's has everything you need, whether you're looking to get your feet wet or you're a seasoned pro and already know. Mary J's offers competitive pricing. In fact, they're going to price match any store in Ottawa. That means you're guaranteed the best price at a Mary J's location. You can also get their discount card. Make sure you get the loyalty program, Mary J's. Mary J's has the best customer service. And go say what up to Dashy, diehard Sens fan, loves Mary and hosting the old school Sens. So go see Dashy and say what up, pick his brain on the Sens, and go say what's new at Mary J's. Welcome back. It's round 2 of the Ring of Honor. We are doing the biggest what ifs in Ottawa Senators history. Pilsy, you're on the clock.
Whew, okay. All right. So with my first pick, I went with a signing scenario. Who are they going to sign, Chara or Redden? Obviously, they choose Redden. Should have chosen Chara. That's the direction I went. So now this is going to be a trade that was rumored to be in the works. I'm not entirely sure exactly how far along it got, who nixed it, where it stopped, when discussion stopped, but it was in the works. So it plays for our what ifs here. Boys, what if the Ottawa Senators are able to pull off Cody Ceci for Taylor Hall 1-for-1 trade in 2016? I mean,
that was in 2016?
That was in 2016 because the Edmonton Oilers, they wanted a defensive defenseman to help shore up that defense and stop playing run and gun with just all their high talented draft pick rookies. And they wanted it badly. They ended up doing Hall for Adam Larson, but it was clear that through doing my research that CC for Hall was at least on the table and was at least considered and discussed. So if the Sens are able to finalize that trade, they ship off Cody Ceci, and then they get Taylor Hall, who, when he went to New Jersey the next year, 53 points in 72 games, kind of underwhelming. New country, new team, a lot of changes for him. That makes sense. But then the year after with the Devils, 93 points in 76 games. He wins the MVP. I don't think Cody Ceci was up for MVP nomination. So adding an MVP and dumping off Cody Ceci and get Ceci to Edmonton earlier than he ended up going there eventually. So if they were able to pull this trade off instead of the Devils getting it, I think that would be a massive, massive change in this franchise.
I'll allow it. I saw enough research that was a trade that was rumored to be on the table. So that's a great pick. This is our first trade that didn't happen. I wonder if there's going to be more down the road. Mark, you're up 5th overall.
Okay, so I'm kind of actually going to go with a similar route here with a trade that did work out in Ottawa Senators' favor. But if it didn't, oh my God, I couldn't imagine where we'd be. Ooh. And that is the Erik Karlsson trade.
Okay.
What if the return didn't come back the way it did?
We gotta word this properly here because there's a couple different ways. So what do you want it to say on there, Mark?
On the graphic, I'll say Karlsson trade didn't work out. Is that specific enough, or?
What you're trying to say is if the return was underwhelming, right?
Yeah, Karlsson return was underwhelming, but it's not. So that gives me hope for the future.
Pilsy, what if we word it like this? And Mark would have to obviously be okay with it. What if the Erik Karlsson trade didn't include 3rd overall? Because that's like, what if the Sharks were better the next year? You know what I mean? Because think of that.
I like where you're going with it, but I like the quantity of what we got back too. Norris, Merlining.
Yeah.
It's Sogard and Ostapchuk, right?
What if the Erik Karlsson return was underwhelming? Pills, are we agreeable with that?
This moment for me is a big what if, but I didn't know how to word it on the graphic.
What if the Senators lost the Erik Karlsson trade?
I think that's the way to put it.
What if Ottawa lost the Erik Karlsson trade?
I think that's fair, right?
Imagine how much longer this rebuild would have went on if we didn't get what we got.
I think that's what he's trying to say.
We got our number 1 and 2 center out of it.
We like that,
right? Like,
Pinto
would be rocking line 1 right now if it wasn't for those two. Like,
seriously, yeah. I think so. We can't choose different what ifs for the same moments, right? Because I had this worded a little differently on mine. Can we discuss that, or we don't want to open that up?
Sure, I'm open to that.
Let's discuss.
Okay, so I had on mine, which is my number 5 pick, what if the Sens traded Karlsson and Ryan to Vegas instead? Because remember, that was the alternate avenue at the deadline. They had a deal in place to trade Karlsson, dump Ryan's contract, and from what I researched, the return was Cody Glass and 2 first-round picks. So that would have been totally different. But I get you're trying to say something different, but I just wanted to.
I'm spinning this in a positive way. Like, what if things would have went differently? How long could this rebuild have tortured us? Longer, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the route I was taking with this.
Okay. Well, I think it's good as is.
Yep.
What if Ottawa lost the trade? You know what? I was gonna save this for my 3rd or 4th, but I mean I have 2 picks snake style right now. But since we're all doing you both went trade route, so I will too. And this is courtesy of our good friend over at Sens Chirp, who's been in the game since these days. What if the Ottawa Senators in November of 2006, think of all that we've talked about, 2006, 2007, how good that season was. What if the Ottawa Senators traded Daniel Alfredsson to the Los Angeles Kings for Craig Conroy?
Oh,
was that legit?
That is
I
as
never heard of that.
legit. I never knew that.
Gets. The Ottawa Senators started that 06 run in November 7-11-1. After that round 2 exit against Buffalo the year before, Hasek leaves, Chara leaves. Well, who did Pominville go around in 06 in the playoffs? Alfie was the whipping boy at that point in Senators history, and they got off to a slow start. And in November, the article states, Chris Stevenson reports on his blog, CJ is still in the game, that a potential deal could be in the works between the Senators and LA Kings. 4 Kings scouts attended last night's Sens Habs game. Tony Marinaro, still in the game too, covers the Habs, said on his station this morning he had it confirmed the Kings scouts were there to look exclusively at Senators captain Daniel Alfredsson. Alfie was -4 that night, so take with that what you will.
Ross is slighting Alfie. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Ripping the dash 4 on him there.
Hey, I'm just telling you that is an enormous what if.
No, for
it
real.
Is. And I knew you'd be getting him on there.
Yeah, you got to get Alfie on the graphics somehow. It was a 1-for-1 Ross, Alfie for Conroy, nothing else.
I don't know if there's other pieces. Conroy finished that season with 20.
That would have been insane.
Craig Conroy finished that season with 16 points in 52 games.
And he'd be our GM today if that happened.
Yes, and Alfie scored the goal to get them to the Stanley Cup final that spring.
Wow. What if?
And then history was rewritten about Daniel Alfredsson.
Okay. I was not aware of that. So that's a fun pick. That was not on my list, obviously. Nice.
All right. Well, round 3 is next. We'll bring it home and finalize our list of the biggest what ifs in Senators history. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Ticket season is here. You're going to the Sens home opener. You're going to a baseball playoff game. What about the NFL? That's getting going. Get your tickets with Game Time. Game Time is the ticketing app for Locked On, and for great reason. How about Game Time Picks? It brings you all what you need and none of what you don't. Filter out the fluff with Game Time Picks for incredible deals on great seats, and you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. You can talk about everything with Game Time. You talk about the panoramic view that they have at your seat, so you know surprises when you get there. You can toggle it on, all-in pricing. That way there's no surprise fees. Don't like surprises when you leave the surprises to on the ice at the game. They also have at Game Time the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL. That's LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Welcome back. It's round 3 of the Ring of Honor right here. Locked On Senators. You can follow us on Twitter at Sens Central. That is where we will post the poll where you can vote for your best list of what ifs. Mark is with us here. Pilsy's with me. And I've got another pick after I think I just nailed it with round 2.
Okay.
Round 3. What if when the Ottawa Senators, way back when, were building a rink in 1995 if they put it downtown?
Ross goes this route.
The Ottawa Senators built on LeBreton Flats in 1995. What if?
Okay. Mark, do you want to chime in first? Because I've got a couple of comments.
No, I don't have much to say on that one. I don't know how I feel about it. Because I wasn't really around at the time either, so.
You would have gotten to enjoy the fruits of that labor for your entire life.
Yeah, it's true.
You would only know the Senators as downtown, walk from the market, walk from Preston Street, take the OC Transpo. I'm not even going to envision a world where the O train works. I'm just saying take the bus.
Because that's not realistic.
Just walk.
But I'm also an Ottawa Valley guy, right? So I kind of like it being in Canada.
Oh,
hey, you're not winning this
access to it, right?
You Valley boys.
But here's the thing, Ross.
No,
LeBret. Now, what are you? Can I see what you're putting on the graphic?
What if the Senators built their arena downtown in 95, which is when they built Palladium, which is when they built the Corral Center.
Okay. Because LeBreton Flats.
No, that's not going to be. That's just for talking on the podcast.
Okay, because that probably wouldn't have been possible, as it's still not possible today.
No, but what if the NCC owned a chunk of what if the NCC was on board?
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
That's fair.
But that's not a Senators what if. That's Like, if we want to do that on a political show, go ahead. What if the a local politics show talking? That's as political as we'll get on this show. Is that what if the NCC allowed the Senators to build a rink at LeBreton Flats in '95? No, on the graphic, I'm just saying, what if the Sens built their rink downtown?
Yeah, no, that's all right. That's fair. That was not on my list, but
I do like it. I just don't know if I feel like it's going to play that well because it's not a real on ice moment. But I don't know. I'm tempted to see it. I'm curious to see how that goes. Sorry.
Well, I'm curious. Yeah, I'm curious to see how your next pick's going to go.
Me too. I'm trying to find a charging outlet right now.
Oh, geez. Well, I mean,
no, I'm having a day, boys. I'm having a day.
What percentage we got yet?
5 right now. So I'm hustling.
You're good. You look like you're ready to go. Is this in the first time in Ring of Honor history? Are you gonna punt your pick, or are you ready to go?
No, I'm ready to go.
Okay, what's your pick?
Okay, I think you guys are gonna like this because I'm kind of going in a similar route now to Ross and kind of going with an off-ice kind of management sort of issue, and that is, what if Michael Andlauer bought the team at the beginning of the rebuild?
So what if Andlauer bought the team in 2018? Yeah,
2018. What if he was here at the beginning of all of this teardown? Because I think, honestly, decisions would have been made differently. Leashes would have been shorter.
So what if
accountability would have been more at the forefront.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean,
that's a great pick.
They might not have torn it down as aggressively as Dorion and Melnyk did.
Yeah, I didn't want to put Melnyk on the.
Do you want him controlling a rebuild, or do you want him buying the team before the rebuild started?
Andlauer purchase pre-rebuild.
You like that, Pilsy?
I think we should put a year on it.
Yeah, give me a year.
Andlauer buys team in 2018.
Okay. That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
So I think
that's the point I'm trying to get across here.
Right, because I didn't know whether you're like after the deals are made, like you have all these picks and prospects and how he's going to build around it, or if he buys it, as you're saying, in 2018.
Summer of 2018.
You can keep Stone, you can keep Duchesne, you can make those decisions. So I think that's a huge discrepancy. That's a great pick, Pilsy.
Yeah, that's a good pick, because that would have a monumental change on how this was. Because there's, Ross, correct me, what is the page document they wrote up in Barbados or Bahamas? 201 pages or whatever about the 5 years of unparalleled success, and they had it fully planned to tear everything down, draft aggressively, and then be back on top in no time. So I don't think Michael Andlauer, with his experience in the hockey world, would have done that as aggressively as the previous regime did. And I don't think Michael Andlauer has Pierre Dorion as his running mate for that long.
Nope. He certainly would not have. I'm scrolling. I searched on Twitter Pierre Dorion pages to try to find how many.
It was in the hundreds, though. Like we were laughing about it, and you and I put a blank check offer out to buy that document.
That's still on the table.
Still stands open. Blank check to get that book.
If you can get us that book, we will negotiate something very favorable for you. But that's a great pick from Mark. Pilsy, you're up.
Whew.
Or wait, I think we got to see it on the graphic. Or no, it's an easy one. It's not something that we need to litigate at all.
Okay.
So in summer 2018, he said, right?
Yep.
Summer 2018. Cool. All right, Pilsy, you're up.
I have basically my entire list is left, because Ross, you took 2 picks that weren't on my list. Mark, you took one that was not on my list. So this is, Mark, I don't know if you followed along, but this is where famously my drafts fall apart. So this is very important.
Playing circus carnival music.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to go for this because I think it has a resounding, lasting effect. Got to find my spot here.
Everything on his list is available, though.
No, I'm trying to find the stats to further my point. Okay, I'm here.
So we're going to snap back on it?
No. What if the Ottawa Senators never trade Mika Zibanejad?
Oh, okay. It's a fine pick.
I mean,
how many cups does he have?
How many cups do the Sens have?
Same amount.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's the argument you're going for, but would the Sens
have
have
the cup final?
He had 24 points in that run as well.
Cute.
Yeah, that's pretty good. If they don't trade Mika Zibanejad and they are able to have him, he put up 37 points, 47 points. Okay, you're still working through growing pains as a developing player. Then in 2018, 2019, when Michael Landauer has the team, this is when things get really exciting. You look at 74 points, 75 points, 50 points, 81 points, 91 points. And then last year was a down year at 72 points. And then they get to keep that second round pick. Who knows what they do with that? I think if they keep Mika Zibanejad, that is an absolute game changer.
I think it's a worst trades in Sens history. It's on that Ring of Honor. I just think there's bigger things. There's bigger fish to fry. But that's your third round pick. It's a classic Pilsy third round pick. I
don't think so.
Mark, you like this pick?
If he took it in the fourth round, maybe. I feel like there is a bit of meat on the bone here still.
Oh, we're losing your connection a little bit there, Mark, but we'll get you on your pick maybe, and maybe if you head outside. That was working before. Great. Pilsy, what do you got for your fourth pick?
Okay. What if the Ottawa Senators extend Mark Stone instead of trading him?
Oh,
because you'll remember before the season before, I'm getting my years mixed up, but they were supposed to go to arbitration, but they settled on a 1-year deal. And then that was the beginning of the end, right? Like, I think most people can agree with that. When they didn't get a proper extension done there and they were barely able to beat out arbitration, that's when you knew this wasn't going to work and Mark Stone was not going to be here long-term. Because if they keep Mark Stone, we don't have to worry about the horrible return they got in return for Mark Stone. And he's probably their next captain, which changes things for better or worse, because then Brady's not the captain. I don't know if that's better or worse. It's just a massive change because Brady looked up to Mark Stone like a captain. He felt like he was going to be the captain. And Ross, we heard it straight from Pierre Dorion. That was his biggest regret of all the rebuild, was trading away Mark Stone and not getting him extended. Where did he say that? On this show, on the Locked On Senators podcast, which is ironic because his statement in the press was this is his proudest day as a GM. But that was one of those situations where Eugene Melnyk, he was done with the situation. And I think Dorion was going to give Mark Stone a better extension offer, but wasn't able to do that because Melnyk said, nope, if he didn't want to accept the first offer or offers we had before, we don't want him on the team. Get him out of here this trade deadline. And Dorion's hands were tied. So
I heard they offered him double digits on a cap.
Pretty sure it was 10 million. Yeah. So, I mean, now obviously Mark Stone's got the back issues and things like that, but I guess
he's also got the cup.
Yeah. He's got a cup. He scored a hat trick in the cup winning game. But I think too,
good.
Yeah, that is good. The big thing here is it changes how this team looks now, because now Brady is not being relied upon to be the leader, and maybe you're able to hold some credibility a little bit more, and you don't have that lack of veteran presence on your team. So I think that was a huge moment in Sens history.
I think that's a great pick for sure. I also think that we need a year. You said instead of when they signed the 1-year deal or the following year. You want him signed long-term in 2018 or 19?
Like when they when they were going to go to arbitration, if they extend him there.
Is that 17 or 18? I'm pulling it up right here. I've got it up.
18.
So,
yeah, 18. Right.
They signed the deal. Well, 1-year deal, August 3rd, 2018.
Okay. Yeah.
So summer 20, but they didn't go to arbitration. It's like the morning of.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So ridiculous.
Yeah, it was
just unnecessary for so many reasons.
Yeah, and they lost their leverage in that deal as well. And from the there's been some articles revisiting the Stone trade. I think Pierre LeBrun did it on The Athletic, and he was saying essentially Vegas was going to be the only option. That's where Stone wanted to go with his old GM from the Wheat Kings, McCrimmon, I believe, and other teams just weren't even really brought to the table. Like apparently Ross, I don't know if you knew this, the Jets were going after him pretty hard, but they weren't able to get anywhere in the discussions because it just seemed like it was going to be Vegas or bust.
Interesting. And yeah, you have your leverage at that point. Once he signed the 1-year deal, it was all leverage all the time.
Yeah.
For Mark Stone. And I think that you look at what he's been able to bring leadership wise. I know the cap, and that might cost you some votes, Pillsy, because some people will be like, no, you can't keep him for that much money.
But that's the thing with this what ifs. It's not necessarily what's good or bad. It's how much of a change would that have caused through the franchise.
And it's
at least that's how I'm approaching it.
Well, it's funny because earlier Mark mentioned that he felt like it was a time of when you grew up, really, or that resonates the most with people. So clearly you liked that group from the Hamburglar run, hey?
Yeah, I mean, it was that was a great crew.
You wanted to keep the band together, get Mika Zibanejad in the mix again, sign Mark Stone. Let's do a quick recap, and then Mark will be able to join us for his final pick. Pillsy, why don't we start with you? Because you've got your entire team already picked. You want to go through yours?
Let's do it. My first choice was, what if the Ottawa Senators chose Zdeno Chara over Wade Redden? Then, what if the Ottawa Senators finalized the CC for Hall trade? What if the Ottawa Senators keep Mika Zibanejad? And what if the Ottawa Senators sign Mark Stone long-term in the summer of 2018? I think all of those have massive franchise-altering moments. I went more for the on-ice stuff. I think you guys are dabbling into the off-ice stuff, which is fine. We'll see how that works in the polls.
Okay. And now you're kind of using a bit of psychology on me now, because with my final pick, that I was going to go off ice again. Like, what do you mean? I have 2 on ice ones. Hasek not getting hurt at the Olympics and a trade.
Yeah, fair.
I just have the one.
Yep.
All right. Let's get Mark's final pick. If Mark, you good for your final pick? What do you have?
I'm actually kind of surprised this one's still on the board. I think it's a bit, I don't know, precarious, but what if in the last 4 years, Ottawa had a lineup where they had Stützle, Pinto, Norris for more than 60% of the time? That's the number I'm going to set it at.
Okay. That's going to play to recency for sure.
And people know that.
Right. And we always talk about that. What if we had the 3 of them? What if we had them 1, 2, 3 in the lineup? Like, we say that a lot as Sens fans in recent memory. So that one was one that came to mind right away.
All played
and
more games together. How do you want to word it?
What do you guys think? 60% of the games or 60 games out of 82?
I think percentage works better.
Percentage will work better.
Yeah. So I would say,
you're not even getting greedy.
In the time that
60%. That's not even that high of a number.
Yeah, but
yeah, no, it's not. But when you think about it, what's the total in the last 4 years they played together? Like 55, something like that, games?
Yeah. I actually have the stat up right here. Always do. They're 24, 11, and 3 all time when all of Stützle, Norris, and Pinto play.
Yeah. Wow.
So
it's only 38 times?
38 times out of Stützle. Well, that'll be the barometer because he was the last one to get drafted. Although he played his rookie year before Pinto. Anyway, same season. Stützle's played 285 games and only 38 with Norris and Pinto.
So yeah, that's my pick.
So
right,
60%?
Yeah.
60%. Let's put 60.
let's not get greedy. I would have said
the Will Ferrell, 60% of the time works 100% of the time.
Hey, I would have picked 100%, but call me crazy. Pillsy, how do you feel about that? Choosing 60.
I mean, it's a low bar, but like we know how good they are when they're together. So it
emphasizes.
It's not crazy. Yeah, exactly.
It emphasizes just how little they have. Okay. I think I have a pretty strong draft, and this might not play on the graphic as well as I want. What if the Senators went bankrupt in 2003? There just is no Ottawa Senators anymore. They were that close.
Yeah.
But
it's honestly a good pick, Ross.
But can't anyone else swoop in and save them?
No, Melnyk was the last. He bought the rink and the team for like $150 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think he had them like throw in the rink as like a signing bonus.
All right. Yeah. I mean, that's the definitely the repercussions of that not happening would
130 million Canadian dollars.
Yeah. Wow.
The Senators are going bankrupt if it's not for Eugene Melnyk. So I think on the graphic, I'm just putting what if the Sens went bankrupt in 2003.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Not a lot of feedback, I guess.
I don't like where do we go from there? I don't know.
We don't have a show, Billsy. That's where we go.
Yeah. Or we're covering the Arizona Coyotes or something like that.
What?
This might actually work.
That would have been the worst team to pick.
Yeah.
Then we would have been big Thrashers guys because they came in the league right after or even just before.
True.
Jeez. Man, this has been a good draft. I actually we all went different directions very, very consistently. Pilsy gave his list earlier, Mark. I've got Hasek not getting hurt at the Olympics in 2006. The Sens trading Alfredson. Could you imagine for Craig Conroy to LA in 2006? The Senators building their rink downtown in 1995 so that myself and many others in town could go to games and walk there and enjoy all the beauty that downtown Ottawa has to hold. And then the Senators going bankrupt and folding in 2003. Mark's got Chris Kunitz not scoring in double overtime of game. Mark, you read off your list. I don't want to influence it with how I say it. Pilsy said his, I said mine. So go ahead. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, so first overall, I went with, second overall pick, my first overall. I went with Kunitz not scoring the goal in double OT of Game 7 in 2017 Eastern Conference Final. Now, the name Kunitz doesn't really matter in this instance. For me, it matters just the fact that my heart was broken, and what if that puck didn't go in the net, was the way my mind went about it. Now, the way you put it on the graphic makes it sound like I'm a Kunitz hater, which I am, but at the same time, I can understand why it needs to be in there. The next one, Ottawa lost the Erik Karlsson trade just because of the simple fact of how much we got back. It was the quantity more so than the quality for me. Getting Stützle, Norris, Merilainen, Ostapchuk, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think the fifth was the pick we used on Sogard, correct?
Believe so, yes.
I think so.
There was 5 pieces, and I know the 4.
Like they traded up with that.
But anyways,
yes.
That second round pick was actually Jamison Reese.
Yeah.
Yeah, funny enough. So then my third round pick, I took Michael Andlauer buying the Sens in summer of 2018 instead of last year because I think that the rebuild would have went in a
value-wise, that's
totally different direction. And then lastly, I ended it off with what we talk about a lot in recent memory, and that's the lack of having Stützle, Pinto, Norris in the lineup all together at the same time. And for me, I'm setting the number at just a minimum of 60% of the time, and who knows where we would be right now if that was the case.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, this is an interesting draft, guys. I don't think there's a clear winner or loser here. I mean, I hope I'm not the clear loser, but
your first pick's phenomenal.
Thank you.
You nailed your first pick.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be, I think everybody's going to view this list differently. That's the beauty. These are the topics we really want. And I should actually, Pilsy, how do you think your chances are at winning?
I think I've got a solid second place finish here. I don't think I've got enough.
Oh, who are you going to beat? Who are you going to beat? You want to call one of us out?
Oh, well, we're not letting the challenger get ahead, and you're on a roll here. So I'll hop in front of Mark, and we'll let you have another one to boost your ego there, Ross. What I'm worried about here is I've got some honorable mentions that I'm so worried people are going to be like, Pilsy, why wouldn't you choose all of those honorable mentions instead of your third round pick, which happens almost every time. I had Alexandra Daig as an honorable mention for the last draft, and I didn't even mention it. Like, tough.
None of us.
Pilsy, you went with keeping Zibanejad over Dag?
No, not in this
That
draft.
to me-
How did nobody take choosing Pronger over
Pronger
Day?
instead of Dag. Yeah, see that
Oh,
one.
I know. I just thought of that.
Oh, any other honorable mentions you guys have?
I've got some big
I have
ones.
one key one.
Okay, you
What?
go first, Mark.
It kind of lends itself to the Carlson trade, and I could have really went on that brand if I wanted to, especially with the Stützle-Norris connection in the fourth pick. But what if the 2020 lottery went differently? We got Sanderson and Stützle, right? 3 and 5. What if we got the first overall pick and got Lafreniere? Right?
Yeah.
Like, you have to think about it.
Yeah, that is good. I'm kicking myself about not putting Pronger over Day.
Yeah, me too. That's a
That's
huge
a
omission.
first round pick.
Yeah,
That's
could have
easy
been.
first round pick. Whatever. That's the beauty of it. Pilsy, you got a couple more?
Okay, this is the one I wish I picked instead of my Zibanejad one, which I still don't think is a bad pick, but I maybe shouldn't have picked the third round. What if the Ottawa Senators were able to acquire Steve Yzerman for Alexei Yashin?
Yeah. Wow. That is a big.
That
one.
would have been.
But they did so well on the actual trade itself. It takes the sting out of it.
Exactly, but I mean, adding
Exactly.
Yzerman,
Yeah.
a Hall of Fame guy from Ottawa, like that's huge. Some other big ones I had. What if Ryan Reynolds bought the team? What if they traded Carlson and Ryan to Vegas? We already talked about that. And then I think probably I got two more. What if the Sens decide to defer the pick and not select Brady at 4th overall?
Yeah, that's a good option too.
Very different looking team here. And what if the Sens gave Alfie the deal he deserved so he doesn't go to Detroit and he stays a center for life? That would have been nice too.
Yeah.
You got some more?
Any other ones, Ross, for you come to mind?
No. I think we've covered.
Yeah, you
it
had
all.
a short list. So
I did.
You got what else was on your list? Those 4 were on your list, and you had one more.
No, I had Kunitz on there as well, and then
Okay.
I had the Stone. I had something slightly different from Stone. I had give him a 3-year bridge instead of a 1-year.
Yeah, okay, so same path as me.
Same
Yeah.
principle,
Mhm.
but a little different. So no, I like the 4 that I took. These I'm happy it worked out this way. Short list. I was feeling cocky. I was feeling confident because I'm back-to-back winner. And I think that my second round pick is going to open a lot of eyes. And you can go find the article, senschirp.ca. Sens Chirp has been covering this team since as long as I can remember, more or less. So
I wonder.
I got one more there, Ross.
What's that?
Okay, go ahead, Marks.
What if instead of selecting Brady Tkachuk, they went with the consensus Philip Zadina?
Yeah.
That's similar.
That's
I
a
think
negative.
deferring would not have been worse because at least you get the pick the next year.
Or they take Kotkaniemi the 1 pick before, right? Like
The Sens were not going to do that.
no, but it's just funny looking back now that Brady ended up being the star out of that kind of 3 to 7 range of that draft, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Ross, the thing with your second pick is I don't know how that's going to play for people because I don't think many people know that. I've never heard of that. I've never heard anyone talk about that. So if people not knowing that will be like awesome and they're like, oh, I didn't know that. That's such a good what if. Or if they're like, well, I didn't even really care about that. I have never sat here and thought, what if the Sens traded Alfie for Conroy? So are people going to think that way as well? No, you don't need to pull up the article. I'm not saying you're wrong or lying. I'm just saying
people might be interested.
I wonder how much of a difference it will make with people probably not knowing that.
Yeah, it will. I think that's the beauty of these great topics. And we put out a tweet at Sens Central where we asked, hey, can you please hit us with some topics? And a lot of great ones came in. So we appreciate that. You can go add yours whenever. We've got one more Ring of Honor to do this season, which just means hockey season's around the corner, right, Pillsy? Like, we love Ring of Honor, but at the same time, like, I prefer watching Sens hockey.
Yeah. Ring of Honor is what gets us by while we're waiting for Sens hockey. But it is a lot of fun. And this year we decided to do something different, get some of the challengers in. So it's been awesome.
All right. We'll see how you do, Mark. Really appreciate you jumping on, man. Leave us with a thought. How are you feeling now a week ahead of training camp?
Well, I still feel like there's those same questions that I had from before with like the third pairing D. They still haven't signed a 4th line center that's solidified, maybe other than Nick Cousins. But I kind of actually like it though. You know, we're not going into a year where we're giving guys jobs like Kastelik and Kelly and all these guys. The bottom 3-4 jobs and the bottom 1 defenseman job are still available. Like, they need to be earned. And it's going to be, like you've said, Ross, all along, it's got to be merit. I want this training camp to be a dogfight for those final spots. And ultimately coming in, I hope Crooker can grab a job. I hope maybe Gaudette can come back in the lineup. You know, I really don't care who it is. Just can they play a role that is sufficient enough to give us 10 to 12 minutes and, you know, actually contribute rather than having a bottom 6 that has just been essentially useless for the last few years.
Well, competition makes everybody a little bit better, and that's what we did today with this Ring of Honor. Really appreciate you joining us, Marc, for Marc and Brandon Piller. I'm Ross Levitan. Go vote. The poll will be out sometime today on Twitter at Sens Central. Who had the best list of what ifs in Senators history? We'll talk to you soon. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.